As of late, I've been playing a lot more Warframe, and something that has always bothered me is how some of my favorite missions in the game are known as many players' least favorite activities to do. There's a variety of reasons for this being the case, but I mainly want to take a look back on some of these missions and discuss how they could be improved to be more favorable within the community, as I feel like a lot of missions in this game kind of just get left behind. Starting off, we have Deviri. Deviri is probably a harder one to fix because in its nature, it's supposed to be a roguelite, and a good roguelite doesn't allow you to just choose your build every time you go in. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of the RNG nature of it. Now, personally, I don't think this game mode is too hard to where you couldn't complete it if you go in with gear that you've never used before. I will say, however, I think a lot of the difficulties that come in this game mode is the decrees that people tend to choose. Now, I won't yuck your yum, but a lot of players will complain about the melee system in Deviri and how it feels bad. And personally, I don't understand why people would use the melee system and pick up melee arcanes when you have an option of just using a gun and plinking away at enemies and eventually just one-shotting them if you pick up the arcane that says reloading gives you 400% more damage. This works in Steel Path as well, and you can't kill the final boss in Deviri with a melee to my knowledge, so it's practically useless to even try to play with melees in Deviri, especially when you are given the option of using your gun over the melees. I do understand the fantasy of using the very cool looking melee weapons, but everyone knows that if you're using an unmodded melee weapon in higher difficulty content, you're gonna struggle. Whereas dumping a bunch of status and multi-shot on a weapon, you're likely to kill something eventually. Now, I will say there should be some sort of a favored system in Deviri that you could unlock with intrinsics. I definitely hate it when I see an MR fodder weapon in my circuit because I forgot to delete it and now I'm down one weapon because of it. But every time I see a frame or weapon that I like is in rotation, I usually drop everything that I'm doing and do the game mode because I know that weapon that I've built up can probably carry me a lot further than a random weapon I've never touched before. The Deviri experience and the circuit have a ton of good rewards, and many players will just do the bare minimum or even trade for the items from the activity, but I've always preferred that players be playing the activities themselves rather than avoiding it at all costs. If you look in the trade chat right now, everyone's trying to buy an arcane hotshot even though the source of arcane hotshot has increased ever since it is dropped, alongside the mission that it is from is pretty much solved. However, people still avoid that game mode because they do not like the RNG mechanics of it, and as Pablo has shown on Twitter, there's definitely some frames that are used a lot more than everyone else. And the reason why that is because the game mode asks you to engage with unfun RNG systems. So you're gonna try to find a character that just ignores all these unfun RNG systems within the activity, make it somewhat enjoyable for you and your teammates. While I do like the concept of EDA and ETA, there's definitely issues with the activity itself. But I think that has been discussed to death already, so I'm just gonna move on. Up next is a mission I believe that Digital Extremes kind of killed off due to player feedback. This mission would be Call's weekly mission. This was one of my favorite weekly rituals, as I'd log in, see what shard that is being sold, and then do the mission to get that shard. It faces the same issue that Deviri has where you do not have control over your frame, but it's even worse. You don't get a frame at all. Personally, I like the change. The pacing of combat was different, and overall, the missions were fun to do. You do your mission, you pick up your weekly Archon shard, and if you wanted to, you'd pick up some Archon mods. Not all of them are used, but all of the rewards are pretty evergreen. I still see people buying Arcane Stretch, Continuity, and Archon Vitality from time to time. I think it was a good activity. You'd spend maybe 15 to 20 minutes in here, and you would get rewarded with one of the strongest items in the game, alongside a mod that was on par, if not better, than its prime version that was limited from Borrow. This was a great way for newer players to be able to access some build crafting that they wouldn't otherwise have. However, because some people didn't like one mission of the three, or just didn't like playing their Warframe, this mission got less play and more complaints. So eventually the Archon Shard was removed from the pool of weekly rewards and was moved to Bird 3 on Deimos, which I personally believe is actually the worst decision they could have done. Many players cannot earn 30k rep a day, which is how much you need to get the Archon Shard from Bird 3. This is assuming you're already rank 5 of Kavya to even get to this Archon Shard. So now, many players are not even picking up this Archon Shard from Bird to begin with, and there's a giant rep farm that you need to do before you can even get access to this Archon Shard. I personally have not touched Whispers in the Wall for a long while, and the only time I do is when I do EDA and one Netcher Cell, because I have a spare after doing my ETA. Personally, I wish the shard would return back to Call's rotation, but also, if it were to return, will there be a weekly featured mission that grants you double scraps or even an Archon Shard itself, while still having an option to choose what mission you want to run during a given week? Most players I've spoken to mainly have one mission they don't like and one mission that they really do. Having a middle ground option would solve this issue for many players, allowing them to do the mission that they like, and if they really want to minimax the rewards, they can do the featured mission, which would offer a bit more for participating in a variety of missions rather than trying to optimize farming one mission. Lastly, we have a dark horse of missions, being Mere Defense. I don't know a single person that likes this mission besides myself, and it makes sense. This mission type is horrible. It takes nearly 6 minutes to get one A rotation reward, nearly half an hour to get one C rotation reward, which is flat out horrible for anyone wanting to actually earn the loot in this game mode. Most C rotation rewards are the best rewards in the game. In the case of Tanaya's Pass, the mission in which you earn Citrine, you have less than a 10% chance of getting her main blueprint after 24 minutes in this mission. Her other pieces, which are in the same rotation of C, have less than a 7% drop chance. This mission is saved by the fact that these are the butt version of drop rates and that there is a pity system with Otok. However, getting the crystals honestly make this mission very poor. The amount of crystals that you get is very little even on Still Path, and you need to be on top of them to get them, meaning that the mission gets much harder to do as a solo player, which a lot of players enjoy doing. But on top of that, I'm pretty sure the crystals spawn in based on the amount of enemies you kill, so you need to be slaying out to get maximum crystal spawns. And even then, it barely feels like you're even doing anything. While a majority of the crystals you earn from these missions will be from the fact that you are collecting crystals, it still feels horrible that the main way to gain Citrine is the pity system. I don't feel like any other frame has this issue, and given that we're getting Citrine Prime later this year, she's probably going to enter the circuit soon. Meaning, if you don't want to farm her out, she'll just be in the circuit with one of her augments, which really do buff her. Citrine is one of the best frames in the game. Not a lot of people recognize that, because in order to get her, you have to go through this horrible grind. And so people are quick to subsume her and just wait for her prime to start playing her. And this is one of 2 Mere Defense missions. The other one, introduced during Whispers of the Walls, has a similar issue, where the things that you want the most have the lowest drop chance and are on the C rotation. There are 8 exclusive mods to this game mode, each having a 5% drop chance, and I think that's quite horrible. So what would I do to this mode to make it more appealing? If you were to change how fast it is to do each rotation, it would honestly probably make the rewards a lot less appealing. However, if you were to improve what collecting the crystals do or the glyphs inside of the Deviri version, you get something a bit more interesting. On top of that, I think every time you collect 100 of these crystals or glyphs, you should get a rotation reward. Meaning that if you're in a rotation and you collect 200 of the crystals or glyphs within said A rotation, by the time you complete your first A rotation in 6 minutes, you would get 3 separate rewards within that 6-minute time frame. In most cases, you're going to end up getting either credits or endo, a reward that's not really something to go crazy over. However, if you do get lucky and you hit that 5% chance, that 6% chance, it feels a lot better. And on top of that, if you buff how much the pity crystals give you from 7 to 10, it makes the amount of time that you spend in the mission a lot less, but it makes the mission a lot more appealing to do after you get all of the rewards, because there's things like relics within these missions. If I could farm out 3 Neo relics in 6 minutes without needing to leave and enter a mission, I might honestly spend my time there more so than in a disruption or a capture mission. And in Citrine's mission, for example, you can also get Oxy Relics, which have an 8% drop chance, but you could also get something like Arcane Steadfast, Secondary Incomer, which both sell for a pretty penny on the Warframe market. You improve on the evergreen rewards from this activity while making it more enjoyable to farm said activity. I really enjoy all of the missions that I've spoken about today, and I'd like to hear what missions you guys enjoy, but probably doesn't get the same love. I know there's someone out there that loves Interception, but I don't even know what comes from Interception to make it worth doing, and I would love to play Interception if it got some updates like Survival and Defense has in the last few years. Until next time, Tenno, stay safe.